Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, members of the Parliament. It's of course a great pleasure to be here and to address this important topic. I was asked to give a few general remarks because our chairman, Christian Vantillo, the CEO of the first group, was not able to attend. It has been an extremely exciting exercise. We were asked by the Commissioner to explore whether this transformation of media landscape, what are its benefits and what are its challenges to the existing media industry and its opportunities to prosper in the future. We are also asked to look at that whether the European policies today are reflecting the interest of this transformation and the media industry, and thirdly to build awareness, because so much is happening that it's important to raise the understanding about the nature of this transformation. We identified 4 what we call disruptive trends. The first one, we have been talking about that at least now for 15 years, that is digital convergence. But now for the first time we are in the position where all content, electronic, print and so forth, they can be digitalized. They can be aggregated and packaged into different kinds of portfolios and transmitted over all different distribution channels, including the traditional broadcasting channels, internet, Wi-Fi, mobile, etc., and consumed with any consumption device. We talk about consumption devices. We are not talking about TVs, PCs, mobile phones, tablets, and so forth, because they are all consumption devices for digital content. This is the first disruptive trend. The second disruptive trend is that it's not anymore possible to control the value chain. It's not anymore a linear value chain where one player is creating the content, putting it in the nice format, distributing it in and controlling its usage. This has become a game of platforms. Different players are looking for space in these new layers of the value chain. We see strong American players who are to a large extent currently having the leadership in this aggregation space. We do have an extremely strong content creation, content industry in Europe. We have strong distributors, telecom operators, etc. And we still have strong consumption industry in Europe. But the platform game has become the key and essence of this transformation. The third disruptive trend is the change of the consumer behavior. And not only the behavior, but also the expectations of the consumers. The consumers have become active creators of content. They play a significant role in social media. And they also expect a completely different role than they used to have in the old days of media, where they were just passive consumers, what was distributed to them. Today they actively contribute to the content that is being distributed. This has unfortunately also changed their behavior in the sense that they are not perhaps as willing to pay for everything as they did in the past. And that is also raising, of course, some challenges for the industry. And finally, the fourth important trend is that when these 3 other trends materialize, we suddenly realize that this is not anymore a national game. This is not a European game. This is a global game. So that the global players are challenging the traditional positions of the European media players. So from that analysis, we came to 8 bottlenecks, what we today see that are the key bottlenecks for Europe to prosper in the media transformation. We also provided 8 solutions. It's fair to say that these are not final solutions. We scratched the surface. We in a way indicated the direction which to go. But it's clear that in this kind of a forum and in this kind of a discussion, nobody has yet the final answers. We also analyzed the situation in the way that there are 2 options for Europe to proceed. The first option is something which is conventional. We might call it muddling through strategy. Trying to make small changes here and there and try to, in a way, navigate through this transformation. This is not what we advocate. We would like to see Europe as a leader in this transformation, to create a political and regulatory environment that gives the European players a leadership in this transformation. And that requires quite swift and resolute action in Europe. The 8 recommendations or solutions, I'm not going to dwell too much time on that. You can read them in detail. I just comment a few of them very briefly. The completion of the digital single market. That's our first recommendation. You know that was one of the flagship initiatives of the current Commission when it took over its current position. Unfortunately, there has not been too much happening in this front. We have in industry promised 500 billion additional revenues for Europe, 200 billion additional tax revenues for governments. And somehow this doesn't seem to be sufficiently attractive offering for governments who are looking for growth and jobs in Europe. Promote new business models. This transformation creates completely new types of business opportunities. We talk about big data. We talk about how we can benefit from the information that we collect from the markets. And that exposes a number of significant questions about the privacy regulations, about the consumer rights, about how can we deal with this data which is so important for the future business. We have to understand that content is the key here. And we have to be able to find ways to reward the content creators, because otherwise we will dry out from having quality content in Europe. We need to find financial support for audiovisual works. New ways of funding. We might call venture business, we might call them other ways, but the existing fragmented system doesn't seem to be sustainable. We are going to talk more in detail about how we need to be able to create a level playing field, how we avoid new barriers to entry. And let me just briefly discuss the topic of providing legal access to content and services from anywhere in the EU on any device for all citizens in the EU. As you know, this is a very, very hot topic. Today we have consumers who are used to consume certain types of services in their home market, and when they move abroad, they suddenly don't have any more access to it. We are used to experience situations where consumers in a neighboring country have access to a certain type of service or certain type of content, but we don't have it because this country has not been put on the map of those who are providing these services. This is a very, very critical question because that is part of the expectation of the consumers. We believe that European citizens finally deserve a fair access to digital content and services, irrespective of their location, as long as they stay within Europe. That, of course, raises a number of extremely critical questions. The question of copyright reform, the question of geo-blocking, EU-wide licensing of content. We discussed them extensively, and we believe that it's important to be able to proceed. Those are extremely important topics. We discussed about the affordability of the services, so therefore roaming discussions are extremely high on the agenda, so that European consumers are being treated fairly irrespective of their location in Europe. Cloud technology will change the landscape and provide access to everybody everywhere. So therefore the technology will solve the problem if our regulatory environment will not be able to deal with it. And therefore it would be extremely important to be able to proceed sufficiently quickly that again this important opportunity of cloud computing will only be provided by players outside Europe. Net neutrality and freedom of contract are extremely important topics. I would like to conclude by saying a few remarks from China. I had a chance of visiting China just 3 weeks ago and spent quite a lot of time with the Chinese internet service providers companies. You may have heard about a company called Baidu. It's the Chinese search service company listed in Nasdaq, having 480 million subscribers, and providing services that by far exceed in terms of quality and usability anything that we have available in Europe or in the United States. They also are able to provide content, music, video, which is much richer than any European or American company can provide. When we visited the Baidu company, they said that now when you are here, use this opportunity to download all the music that you like, because you don't necessarily have it available in your home country. But we can't provide this service for you as long as you are in Europe, because we are restricted to provide the service only in China. This is quite embarrassing. You as a European citizen, you have to travel to China to have a lucrative, excellent service that you might dream of having also in Europe in the future. Thank you so much.